It's clear that it is love and kindness, in the sight of blindness that it is God's love and the failing brightness that's given us hope and no escape from the crisis. Apocalypse.
Chapter 13 The Weight of Steel and Shadows. The path beyond the Crater of Whispers led them to Vermilion Hollow, a mining settlement built into the base of Mount Umbra. Unlike the corrupted villages they'd encountered, this place seemed normal at first glance. But as they approached, they noticed the silence. The path was a jagged scar across the earth, lined with twisted trees whose branches clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. Vermilion Hollow emerged from the mist, a cluster of slate-gray buildings carved into Mount Umbra's base. The air tasted of iron and decay, and the villagers' hollow eyes tracked the seventh Zion's arrival. Their movements were mechanical, puppet-like, jaws opening and closing soundlessly as if trying to speak but trapped in a silent scream. There was no laughter, no greeting, no sound at all, save for mechanical movements. They moved like clockwork figures, their eyes fixed on nothing, their mouths opening and closing but producing no sound. Thalia, whispering with Pippin's feathers bristling, said, "They're not just silent, they're hollow. Like shells." Charity, gripping her hammer with Ember's hackles raised, said, "I feels like walking through a grave that hasn't realized it's dead yet." The village square opened into a cavernous hall, its ceiling lost in shadows. 7 pedestals ringed a pool of liquid mercury that rippled like a living mirror. Each pedestal bore a symbol: a wolf, courage; an owl, wisdom; a stag, gentleness; a lion, strength; a dove, peace; a lamb, new life; and a phoenix, rebirth. Their surfaces glowed faintly, pulsing in time with Darian's cross. Lumina, kneeling to touch the stag's pedestal with her blade humming, said, "These aren't just carvings. They're alive. Like they're waiting for something." Hannah, unfurling a scroll that projected holographic text, said, "The Chamber of Reflections. The Elder Scrolls say it shows truths that cut deeper than blades." As they approached the pool, the mercury surged upward, coalescing into a humanoid figure, Alkimos Kiers, his form flickering between solid and liquid. His eyes were Darian's, but older, scarred by centuries. "My brother returns," he intoned, his voice echoing as if from the bottom of a well. "At last. Still clinging to that glow? Still pretending you're a savior?" Darian, his cross glowing and scythe materializing in his hand, said, "Alkimos, you're supposed to be dead. Slain by the Daemon Lord at Blackfen Pass." "Dead? No. Transformed. Like you." A figure rose from its depths, tall, gaunt, with features that seemed to shift between ages. Alkimos stepped onto the pool's surface, mercury clinging to him like quicksilver armor. "The veil showed me what you really are: a weapon. A cage for something far darker." He dissolved back into the pool, leaving only ripples. The group split to investigate the village. Thalia, Charity, and Illyra scouted the north quarter, while Darian, Seraphina, and Amara headed south. Lumina lingered at the pool, tracing the phoenix symbol with her blade. Lumina muttered, "Rebirth, or a warning." In the village's shadowed alleys, the air grew colder. Thalia's lyre strings vibrated without being played, and Charity's hammer glowed red-hot. Thalia, strumming a dissonant chord, said, "The veil's close. I can smell its rot. This place feels stuck. Like a memory trapped in amber." Charity, her hammer resting on her shoulder, said, "Stuck or not, I'm starving. Let's find an inn that isn't full of zombies." They found the tavern, the guttering candle, its sign dangling by a chain, its sign hanging askew. Inside, depicting a candle flame that looked eerily like a screaming mouth. Inside, the firelight was a sickly green, casting elongated shadows that twitched independently. The walls were lined with taxidermied animals, a wolf with glass eyes, a stag with antlers fused into the ceiling beams. At the bar sat a man in a travel-stained duster, his back to the room, A long sword rested against his stool. It was the Oath Keeper, its blade etched with runes that glowed faintly violet. Arik, stopping dead with his rune axe flaring, said, "No. No. It can't be." Myra, her eyes shifting from blue to storm gray and her bow twilight's reach glowing, said, "Kale. Kale." The man turned. His face was a map of scars, the most prominent running from temple to jaw. His eyes were steel gray, haunted but sharp. A silver pendant, a crescent moon, hung at his throat, flickering in the green light. Kale, his voice gravelly with a half smile, said, "Took you long enough. Thought the veil got you." A tense silence fell. Darian, entering behind them, froze. Darian said, "You two know him?" Arik, his teeth clenched with his axe trembling, said, "We fought with him. Before the frost marches. Before he." Kale, standing abruptly with his chair screeching, said, "Before I what? Left. Ran. Or before I saw what your saint really is." Myra, stepping between them with her voice breaking, said, "Kale, we thought you were dead. The Daemon ambush at Blackfen Pass, your body was gone." Kale let out a bitter laugh. "I was dead. Until it found me." He gestured to the mercury pool visible through the tavern's cracked window. "The veil showed me the truth. About Darian. About all of you." The pool's surface churned violently. From its depths rose a figure identical to Kale, same scar, same coat, but with eyes glowing violet and a voice that dripped with venom. Kale's reflection, smirking with a blade materializing in hand, said, "You still cling to them. Still hope they'll understand. But they're blind. The saint is a weapon. A lie." Kale, his hand on Oath Keeper's hilt and his knuckles white, said, "Not this again." Darian, stepping forward with his glow pulsing, said, "What's it saying?" Kale, his voice low, replied, "That I should have killed you when I had the chance." The reflection lunged, not through the pool, but out of it a solid figure of water and shadow. It drew a long sword identical to Kale's, the blade dripping with black fluid that hissed where it hit the floor. Kale said to the group, his voice steady, "Stay back. This is mine." The battle erupted in a storm of steel and darkness. Kale fought with the precision of a veteran warrior, Oath Keeper a blur of silver, his footwork flawless. The reflection mirrored his moves, but faster, its blade leaving trails of void that corroded the tavern's wooden beams. Kale, grunting and parrying a strike that would have taken his head, said, "You're not me. You're what I feared becoming." Reflection, hissing with a voice overlapping with Alchemo's, said, "I'm what you are. A traitor. A tool. Just like him." It nodded at Darian, whose cross flared in response. Charity, to Darian with her hammer crackling with energy, asked, "Should we help?" Darian, watching intently with his side humming, said, "Not yet. He needs to finish this." Kale feinted left, then spun, slicing upward. The blade caught the reflection's shoulder, but the wound sealed instantly, mercury-like fluid flowing back into place. Reflection, laughing with tendrils of shadow lashing out, said, "You can't kill a shadow with steel, brother." Kale, smirking despite the danger, said, "Good thing I brought something sharper." He reached into his coat, pulling out the crimson shard, a jagged fragment from Hell's Pyre, glowing with trapped magma. Kale, to Darian with his voice softening, said, "You said this could cut through veil magic. Let's test that." He pressed the shard to Oath Keeper's blade. The sword flared crimson, black fluid sizzling where it dripped. The tavern's shadows recoiled, hissing. The reflection faltered, its form rippling like disturbed water. Kale, advancing with his voice rising, said, "You want the truth? Here it is." He struck not at the reflection, but at the mercury pool itself. The shard's edge cracked the surface, and the reflection screamed, dissolving into steam that smelled of burnt ozone. The mercury cleared, revealing a vision. A younger Kale, standing with Arik and Myra before a Daemon horde at Blackfen Pass. Kale taking a shadowy blade meant for Myra, his blood staining the snow. Kale vanishing, as the Veil's whispers began, "They'll die because of Darien. Join us. Save them." Kale, quietly to Darien, said, "I didn't run. I was taken. The Veil showed me alternatives. Futures where you all died because of him." He nodded at Darien. "I believed it. Until I saw what you did at Hell's Pyre. How you chose mercy for Vera. How you never faltered uphold the Lord's justice and mercy." Darien, his cross glowing and scythe retracting, said, "The Veil lies. But sometimes, it shows fragments of truth. To manipulate." Kale, sheathing Oathkeeper and his hand resting on the moon pendant, said, "I know. That's why I'm here. To choose again." Dawn broke as they left Vermilion Hollow. The villagers' whispers faded, their movements slowing to a stop as the Veil's hold weakened. Kale walked beside Arik and Myra, the tension between them replaced by cautious camaraderie. Thalia, grinning and composing on her lyre, said, "So, Kale. How does one survive a Daemon ambush? Asking for a song. Ode to a man who refused to die has a ring to it." Kale, smirking with the moon pendant glinting, said, "You first. How'd you get a song sparrow to like you? Pippin looks like he'd rather peck your fingers off." Pippin chirped indignantly from Thalia's shoulder. As they journeyed toward the next delve, Darien fell into step beside Kale. Darien said, "You didn't have to join us. After everything." Kale, gazing at the horizon where Mount Umbra's peak glowed faintly, said, "I did. The Veil's not just an enemy. It's a mirror. And I'm done seeing what it wants me to see." The path wound onward, the obsidian mountains looming ahead. Somewhere beyond them, the Veil's heart still beat. But for now, the seventh Zion walks stronger, 7 virtues, a saint, and a warrior who'd found his way back to the light. The saint's light grows brighter. With every soul that chooses to stand, dagger balance scale glowing star.